Imagine waking up tomorrow. Your phone is unusually quiet, no emails, no meetings, no one expecting you anywhere. Then you check your bank account, almost empty. Your job is gone. The person you loved has walked away. The future you spent years planning has disappeared overnight. What would be left? Most people spend their lives trying to avoid this moment. But sometimes, life destroys the version of you that was never truly alive. This is the story of a man who lost everything he thought he needed, only to discover the one thing no one could ever take from him. Meet Daniel. At 32 years old, he looked successful. A modern apartment in the city, a nice car parked downstairs, designer clothes, weekend dinners at expensive restaurants, photos that made everyone believe he was living the dream. His friends admired him. His co-workers respected him. Even strangers envied his lifestyle. But every morning before leaving for work, Daniel would stand in front of the bathroom mirror for a few seconds longer than usual. Not because he liked what he saw, but because he barely recognized the person staring back. His life was full, yet somehow empty. Every achievement gave him excitement for a few days. Then the feeling disappeared. So he chased the next promotion, the next purchase, the next milestone. He thought happiness was always one step ahead. He never stopped to ask whether he was walking in the right direction. Then, one rainy Tuesday morning, everything changed. His manager called him into a meeting. It lasted less than 10 minutes. Budget cuts, company restructuring. It's nothing personal. By lunchtime, Daniel walked out carrying a small cardboard box. Inside it were a few notebooks, a coffee mug, and years of his identity. He told himself it was just a setback. He'd recover quickly. But life wasn't finished testing him. The stress affected his relationship. Small arguments became constant fights. A month later, the woman he loved packed her bags. She looked at him with tears in her eyes and quietly said, "I don't even know who you are anymore." She wasn't leaving because he'd lost his job. She was leaving because he'd lost himself long before that. Within weeks, Daniel sold his car, moved into a tiny apartment, canceled subscriptions, stopped answering messages because he was ashamed. The life he had carefully built collapsed like a house made of cards. The hardest part wasn't losing the money. It wasn't losing the apartment. It wasn't even the breakup. The hardest part was the silence. Without meetings, deadlines, notifications, or endless distractions, there was nowhere left to run. For years, Daniel had been busy every minute of every day. Now he had nothing but his own thoughts. At first, he hated them. Questions filled his mind. Was I ever actually happy? Did I choose this life? Or did I simply follow everyone else? If success disappeared tomorrow, who would I be? Psychologists call this an identity crisis. When we attach our worth to our career, relationships, or possessions, losing them can feel like losing ourselves. But maybe the crisis wasn't revealing Daniel's weakness. Maybe it was revealing the truth. One morning, unable to sleep, Daniel left his apartment before sunrise. He walked through empty streets with no destination. For the first time in years, he noticed birds singing, the smell of fresh rain, the warmth of sunlight slowly touching the buildings. Life had been happening around him all along. He had simply been too busy to notice. That morning became a habit. Every day he walked. No phone, no music, no distractions. Soon he started reading books he'd always postponed. He filled journals with thoughts he had buried for years. Some pages were messy, others were painful. But slowly they became honest. He realized something surprising. He had spent years trying to impress people who rarely thought about him. He had sacrificed his health to earn money he barely enjoyed. He had ignored the people who truly loved him while chasing approval from strangers. Daniel stopped trying to rebuild his old life. Instead, he started building himself, not through giant transformations, through tiny promises. Wake up at the same time. Exercise for 20 minutes. Read 10 pages. Cook instead of ordering food. Call his parents every Sunday. Write 1 page before bed. None of these habits changed his life overnight, but every time he kept one small promise, he trusted himself a little more. And self-trust is the foundation of confidence, not compliments, not achievements, not applause. Confidence grows quietly, every time you prove to yourself that your actions match your words. Nearly a year passed. Daniel found another job. It wasn't as glamorous. The salary was smaller, the office wasn't as impressive. But something was different. When work ended, his life began. He spent evenings learning new skills, weekends hiking with friends, long dinners with family. He laughed more, he slept better. He no longer measured success by what he owned, but by the peace he felt when he closed his eyes at night. Ironically, when he stopped chasing the image of success, he finally became successful in the ways that mattered most. Life has a strange habit of taking away the things we mistake for our identity. Sometimes it removes the job. Sometimes the relationship. Sometimes the dream we spent years protecting. Not to punish us, but to ask one important question. If all of this disappeared tomorrow, who would you still be? The strongest people aren't the ones who never lose everything. They're the ones who discover that their greatest strength was never in their possessions. It was in their character. Because money can disappear. Careers can end. Relationships can change. But a disciplined mind, a kind heart, a curious spirit, and the courage to begin again. Those are things no one can take from you. So if your life feels like it's falling apart right now, don't see it only as an ending. Sometimes, the most beautiful chapters of your life begin the moment the old story finally ends. You don't always find yourself by searching. Sometimes, you find yourself by losing everything that was keeping you from becoming who you were meant to be.